Today we have a special guest, George Andraws. He's a director of QA engineering, and he has been in the industry for over 20 years. Interesting fact that George already participated in several previous mock interviews and meetups. And in fact, George, your video on the YouTube and our channel is in the top 10 of the rated, like the most views. So that's awesome. And thank you for coming back.
Yeah, first, thanks for having me. My name is George Andraws. I'm the Director of Quality Engineering. I've been in the testing industry for over 20 years. I've been very blessed to do something that I love for so long and work at places like Microsoft, Amazon, and Apple, to name a few. So it's been a really rewarding ride so far. And I really love what I do. I love breaking software, coming up with test strategies, and building high-performance teams. And lately, I've been helping people to improve their career, get promoted, ace interviews, because as a hiring manager, I interview all the time. I know what hiring managers look for, the skills you need to have to not only get the job, but to succeed on the job as well.
Totally. And today, before we're gonna start the mock interview, we have two persons already volunteers. And before we're gonna start, George and I, we already had this conversation, and I think it's really good to touch on this again about the job market right now. As you heard recently, yesterday, I believe, Tesla just laid off percent of their employees. So, and previously it was Cisco. So the layoffs is not that crazy like it was in 2023, in the end of 2023, but it's still going. And as far as I see, the job market is improving a little bit, but not like it was fractional. I don't see that, it's still employers market. So, George, what do you think in your, let's say that if you would start over again and being in the shoes of a software Q engineer, for example, we have person who is looking for the first time, and we have people who are in engineering have been there, right? What would be the advice maybe, or how would you start looking for a job? Well, let's maybe talk about that. The job market, how would you analyze it, and how would you start it?
Yeah. Yeah, the job market is, like you described it, dry right now. Not a lot of positions, and I'm not seeing a lot of QA positions available. And even when they do become available, the competition is really high. There's a lot of people looking for the same jobs, and a lot of them are just looking for senior people. So if I were to start over, it's different for entry-level engineer versus someone who has, 3 to 5 years experience. For entry level, I'll be honest, a lot of companies, especially if they have a small team, they are not looking for very junior testers or engineers, right? They want someone with some experience. They can't afford to have someone who they're still going to train and ramp up and wait 6 months until they're productive, right? They just can't afford that. So it's hard to break into that market. So if you're in that position, the best way to situate yourself is to give yourself that experience. And I'm sure you're thinking, well, how do I get the experience if I can't get a job that will give me experience? You know what's really impressive is doing projects on your own. I've interviewed candidates who've said, I got laid off, or I finished school and couldn't find a job, and so I did this project. I built this website, I built this service, I tinkered with this, I took this course, and I worked on a group project with something. I volunteered for a nonprofit to help them build their website. That's really impressive, right? That says, someone who's continuously learning, is always looking for ways to be productive, grow. That's experience, don't discount that. There's also, besides doing things on your own, there's companies, services that will hire some, people with limited experience. Like there's a company called Applause that they crowdsource testing. So basically they give you something to test, and depending on the number of bugs you find, you get paid. It could be okay. I don't think that's like the best long-term career, but it's a way to build experience. So build that experience any way you can, put it on your resume. Don't discount, these projects and things that you've done on your own. Add it to your resume. build up your network also. That's a really important thing. Some of my first positions were through people I knew. They told me, hey, we have an opening. Or I asked them, do you have a spot for someone with this skill set? I never got a job because of someone I knew, but I got introduced to a job because of someone I knew. So networking is still very important. And I would even say, in the virtual world, it's even more important, right? The cost of going to a coffee shop and meeting someone is very high versus sending a LinkedIn message is very low. So reach out to people, even if you don't know them. People in senior positions are also very kind and looking to give back. And so they might be willing to give 10, 15 minutes of their time for a quick Zoom chat to ask questions or an informational about a position. So, go get them.
In fact, George, I can add to your point about, for example, Applause, right? I have an example. One of my best friends, he started career and he got the first experience from the Applause, like from the U test. But it was a while ago. It was over 10, about 9 years ago. I'm not sure like how it works in today's world, but I know for sure that that's how he started. He just randomly created an account there. In fact, he also joined his wife to do this. So they were doing this together. And both of them, he find the second job pretty quickly, like maybe a year after. But his wife, she stick to UTest quite a while, and she was doing a decent amount of money. So it was pretty valuable for them, for sure. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you're just a go-getter, if you have a positive attitude, if you're willing to work hard, you can definitely crack into the market. And I'd say you have really good chances if you do that, because a lot of people just aren't willing to put in the legwork. So if you're spending a Saturday morning listening to something like this, you probably already have that mindset. And I've been able to help so many people who just haven't found the right avenue, but have those aspirations to get a job, to do great on interviews, to gain experience when they don't really have any, things like that. Yeah. If you have some experience that's a little bit different for that, your experience will help you get the next position. And that you just got to keep trying, right? Find a good position, good fit for you, know how to interview really, really well, what hiring managers look for, be prepared with good answers that are concise, to the point, and give exactly what, the note taker is looking for. A lot of big companies make hiring decisions based on, what everyone on the panel thinks. So their notes go to everyone else. So think of, if you're taking notes, what you are going to write. So your answer should kind of follow a format of the note taker. So you're concise. And so when others read the notes, they will know exactly what your answer is and know that it's a good answer. So you kind of have to know these tips and tricks to be able to do really well in interviews like that, as well as presenting yourself. So I've gotten a lot of experience and learn from mistakes of how to present and how not to present. And that makes a big difference. Again, I would say in the virtual world, that might be even more important, because it's not exactly like face-to-face. It's a little different. Little things make a big difference as well.
Totally about the presentation and appearance, I would say, right? In the first place, especially in the first interview, if you got the first interview, it's very important how you prepared. It basically says about you, how you prepared for the interview. If you, it depends. It depends, of course. But also, I want to give my couple cents about the what you mentioned, networking. In personally, me, like for the last, let's say, last 3 jobs, I found them through the personal network. Just, message to either colleagues recommend me, or I've been reaching out to people who I know. Hey, I'm looking. Do you know something? And as you mentioned, like the introduction, it's very powerful. It's tough for people who are looking for their first job, and it's tough for people who were laid off or who is looking for another job, for not the first one, even with the experience. So today we're going to be a little bit more flexible. Like previously, we were asking you to share your resume and tell us about yourself, start your pitch. and then we would give you the feedback. But today, let's do a little bit more flexible. So first, want to hear like what is your situation? Let's start with the first person. Hello, hello.
Hi there. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. And thank you, George, for your introduction. I appreciate everything you mentioned. So, as I mentioned, I'm kind of stuck in a situation where I feel overqualified on one hand and maybe underqualified on the other hand. Kind of also being a gray-haired kind of person after all these years, being 25 years in QA engineering. Right now, I find it very hard after almost a year and a half being out of job. So that's my situation. And of course, what I meant by doing a virtual interview is not that I can interview virtually. It's just I feel any facial expression, any body language, anything you do, of course, is interpreted maybe differently. In person, I'm more comfortable, but in which really seems like a challenge for me. Although it's not the only challenge. It's other things, probably maybe code challenge that now they put in a lot of complicated codes from hiring people. So even though I improving, but still feel like there are a lot of tough questions the hiring managers ask. And that's what I cannot get past that, even though I'm senior QA and doing it for a long time. So that's my challenge. And if you want, I can also give you a very quick elevator pitch about my background.
Before you do that, I just want to acknowledge the challenge there, right? It's when you have so much experience, and I just pulled up your LinkedIn, you've got a lot of, QA experience.
Thank
The
you.
bar is high, right? So the expectations are high. And sometimes hiring managers don't even know what to do with a candidate like this, right? That the person who has so much experience and they're wondering, is there going to be a good fit or not? And you also probably have 5 different answers for every question, right? So when they say, tell me about a time when, well, you've had 5 of those times. So what's the best one to give? So you got to know what exactly that they're looking for, how to give the right answer. And you also mentioned presentation. I think if you have experience interviewing in person, and you've done that well before, it's not a giant leap to be great at presenting online, right? There's only kind of a few simple things that you need to do. Yes, visual presentation is one. Your self-confidence is probably the next really big one. And knowing, again, the tips and tricks of what the person on the other side is looking for and what they're seeing will really help you make those adjustments. So I've helped like a person on my team who great QA engineer, amazing, horrible at presenting. Their career was kind of sidelined because of that. Just no one talked to this person and he didn't talk to anyone. And in about a month, I helped him really turn that around to where he's presenting at all hands, very confident, giving great talks, engaging people reaching out to him. So it's not as hard as you think. You just got to know the right things to do. So to help you though, you mentioned that you get asked some challenging questions sometimes. Can you give me one or two examples of questions that have stumped you in interviews, and let's analyze those. I'm curious to hear what you got asked and what the response was.
Well, sometimes code challenges, sometimes also behavioral questions that perhaps that was first time I heard that. And for a code challenge, sometimes, let's say, for instance, using Python language as an example, wanted to do the palindrome, just one of the questions. Yeah, I mean, I know how to do it, but obviously, and I believe they even, the hiring manager and the panel say, oh, that's a good answer and say everything. But at the end, they go with a different candidate. And
sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, those are the two big ones, right? Behavioral and code. So there's a ton of material about how to answer coding questions online. I'm happy to help there, but I feel like our time is best used on behavioral questions? Because there's a lot of variability in those. Is there a specific area of behavioral questions that you feel are more challenging? Let's do that. Let me ask you a behavioral question and tell me your answer, and then let's talk about it. So I can come up with one if you don't have one in mind.
I cannot come up with anything right now. I mean, I can dig up what other questions were, but I'd be more than happy to hear from you.
Okay. So let's start with, I have two that are very, very basic, but are very open-ended. So let's start with this one. Tell me about a challenging problem you had to solve.
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell that the
One
time.
more thing. If you don't mind, can you turn your video on? Let's
Oh, sure.
simulate like a real virtual interview, and
Yeah, not a problem.
let's get the whole effect. Yeah.
As long as you don't mind my background.
Beautiful. The beach is beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Well, challenging time. I say sometimes this is, of course, one of those situations that I have to think about the time. And sometimes I cannot think right away about when it was, but I have to come up with not too challenging, but a little bit challenging time when I ran into a situation where I had to deal with project managers and developers at the same time. That was some disagreement from both ends. And in terms of finding the defects, that they were disagree, both of them, with what I found. But I have to go through the certain steps to explain to them is systematically from my experience that I had in the past, know now how to handle it. The way I did it, I said, I can present to you, this is my basically what I came up with, because based on acceptance criteria and required specifications, this is what I believe compared to that, it shows that is the defect. However, they would disagree. They say, no, it's not, especially the developer. So I have to present it, reproduce it, show it to them. And still was this agreement, oh, no, it's not. So, and then I say, well, I can actually present to you, show it on your system. And then, of course, after back and forth, finally came to agreement. But that was challenging because it took a long time to convince them.
And what was the outcome?
The outcome was definitely asked me to file the defect, bug, and report it, and also add it to the test plan, which I did. And so making sure that these things won't happen again. As a matter of fact, it was happening in a production after release, which it shouldn't have.
Okay, and it got fixed in the end?
Yes, it was a hot fix. It was something that to give you a little bit information that one of the developer pushed the code last minute and it didn't go through. And of course it broke at the end, like when you just do a little bit detail pressing on the button, it didn't do anything basically. Yeah, didn't supposed to direct to the next page, but it didn't.
Why wasn't it obvious that it was a problem that had to be fixed right away at first? Why'd you have to convince them?
Because I think it was a fact that it's not very crucial, but I found it crucial because I said it doesn't really is a showstopper to me, in my opinion. And on their system, it didn't, because they had not get the latest release, and I did. And I said, this is basically now is the latest release. Did you guys did you update it to the latest? They said they did, but they didn't. So I said, let's see. So let's investigate whether you did. So then they realized, yeah, they did it. And that was the first time I felt like, okay, good. I'm in a good position that I can actually say I found something that I can actually convince them. But that took a while. It was challenging for me.
Okay. I'm taking down some notes. Give me a second and I'll give you some feedback.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks for volunteering to do this.
Thank you for your.
Yeah, no, it takes some courage to be vulnerable like this and to, no one really likes to interview. So, putting yourself in that position.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
Right. So let me give you some feedback, and I'm gonna, if you can excuse me, I'm gonna talk to you like a friend. Okay. So I'm gonna put aside political correctness and the HR speak, and I'm just gonna get straight to the point. Okay. Because I think I know how you can do much better. So go through my notes. First, you should be prepared to answer several different behavioral type questions, especially the most common ones. You should have at least one answer for each of these questions that you've prepared for, you've said out loud, you've rehearsed. They should be in the STAR method, right? So situation or task, and then action that you took and the result. All the answers should be in that format, right? I shouldn't have to ask you more questions to get more details. You should at least, in 2 to 5 minutes, give me the full answer with all of those STAR elements already in the answer. So be prepared. Because you first started by saying, well, let me think about a time. And that's fine if you don't have an example right away, but be prepared for that as well, right? Like one thing I do in interviews is I tell the person from the very first question is, I take a lot of notes. So if you hear clicking noises or I have multiple screens, if you see me looking at a different screen, it's because I take a lot of notes. And you can even say something, kind of lighthearted, like I like to think before I talk. So can you give me 30 seconds to write down some notes before I answer this? All those are fine, right? Again, sometimes people are nervous in interviews, don't have the right answer right away. Take the time. It's much better to have 30 seconds of silence and say a well thought out answer than to kind of stumble along and then go back and remember details and things like that. Another thing, ask clarifying questions about the question. So I asked you, tell me about a challenging problem you had to solve. And you started by telling me about a difficult situation, right? So that was more about a situation that you had to deal with a PM, a dev manager who disagreed with you, right? And the repro maybe wasn't very consistent or not on their machine, but on yours. And that's not exactly what I was looking for. I see how you answered that question, but I was trying to get more of like a technical problem that you had to solve yourself. So it's not completely off, but it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. So ask questions, right? And even if you don't have a great example for that specific, like sometimes I got asked like a very specific question one time that was so specific that it was impossible to answer. And so I said, well, I have something similar. I think I know what you're asking for. And I tell them about a really good answer that I have. That's totally fine as well if it's a really good answer. Ask clarifying questions, right? This kind of goes back to the STAR method, but there's some background noise. I'm not sure where that's coming from.
Maybe.
Sounds like a good commercial.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, give details. I had to ask a few questions, and there's some questions that I had that I didn't even ask, like the personalities of the people you were dealing with. Why was it difficult, right? Like, why did you have to go convince them? I was also curious, why wasn't the bug or the initial documentation good enough to convince them in the first place? Why'd you have to show them? And like, I would think, again, I don't know the answer to this, but I was just thinking if it was a really good bug that was super clear, you would have already had a screenshot or a video, something that really makes it super obvious that, yeah, this has to be fixed right away, right? So that would have saved a lot of time. Also, why did it only repro on your system and not theirs? I'm kind of curious about that. You described like a very typical situation that testers deal with. But again, context helps. So if you had explained this was a crucial issue, but they couldn't see it because they had a different configuration on their machine and it was working theirs, but it was broken in production. Cool, I get it, right? So that would have kind of helped. And also why it was so difficult, right? Tell me more about the personalities. Was this a really crucial time? Were you trying to prioritize between fixing other issues? So give me the story, right? Tell me about the whole thing. So that I think I've beaten that horse enough about STAR method and preparing the answer. The other is presentation. So I already talked about how you started answering the question, but if you are well prepared, it will go smoother, right? Be confident, be natural, be yourself. But also, I've helped people a lot with this, but I really suggest that you record, whether record interviews or record yourself and watch yourself, right? Go back and look and see what you do. That's helped me a lot. I know I use my hands a lot, as you can see. I also fidget. I have this pen that doesn't even work, but I have it on my desk because I need something to fidget with. It's not good or bad. It's just kind of how I am. I used to be a lot worse, but there are simple things that you could do also. I think lighting and like video audio make a huge difference. So your lighting seems okay, but there's a glare on your glasses. So I can't see your eyes, right? Your eyes are like windows to your soul. So if you have, please wear glasses so you can see. But if you have something with like a non-glare, like a no glare filter screen, something that, your personality comes out more, sit up straight, be confident. I like that you're smiling. I always start every interview with a smile. It just kind of helps set the mood, and practice, rehearse your answers so that it's very, very smooth and you know what you're talking about. Even if you don't have the perfect answer, if you are experienced, know how to answer the person's questions, and you're presenting yourself well, it goes a really long way.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your feedback very much.
Hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely. It does.
Was there
Very...
someone else that wanted help with a mock interview question? Oh, and for that, please contact me on LinkedIn or anywhere if you want any follow-ups. I'm happy to help again.
Mehrdad, you've been in our meetups, right? I remember you, I think.
Yeah. In the
Yeah,
past, couple of
totally.
times I was in there. Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
it was quite a while ago. Definitely. Same thing. Please contact me on LinkedIn.
Sure. George, what's your last name? I'm sorry.
That's Andros. I'll send a link to my LinkedIn in the chat.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. That's very helpful.
All right, Mehrdad, and good luck with the job search. Wish you the best. Wish you the best.
Thank you. And also thank you for having this. Appreciate that, organizing these things very much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, Matthew, you're on.
Okay, hello. So my name is Matthew. I just graduated. A little bit background of me. I graduated with a computer science degree this past August, and I've been searching for different software engineering positions basically since then. And it's actually funny, I worked at Amazon at the warehouse, so I could actually understand maybe too well what Karen was talking about with stowing. But yeah, and I'm currently still looking for positions, but still keeping up with my skills in the meantime.
Matthew, nice to meet you. I can see you are Bellevue College, which I attended, and you got a certificate from UW. Go Dog. Yeah. I also graduated from there. So nice to meet a fellow Pacific Northwestern.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Matthew, you mentioned you're looking for entry-level job. Tell me a little bit more. What is your biggest challenge? Is it getting that initial call back from recruiters? Is it passing interviews? What can I help you with the most?
So I've sent probably 200 plus resumes, or applications, even just on LinkedIn or Indeed. And I get ghosted from a lot of them because probably so many applicants.
You're not alone in this.
Yeah. And with all the layoffs with senior people, I'm just not getting probably in the front of the line, and people aren't looking for entry. And yeah, I just don't really know
Have you
where that
got
leaves me.
have you got into any interviews or like completely zero,
Some
nothing?
from the hiring manager for one, like penetration testing, more like cybersecurity, but that one didn't go through. And this other one, which is like not directly like related, it's an IT support technician. I have connections there, but that process, like I had an interview this January, like 22nd. And whenever I like send an email for like follow up, like, have you guys made any like progress on the hiring decision? Like, it's taking that long. So, like, even in like unrelated things, just to get a job right now, it's taking a while. So, I actually haven't had much interview experience at all because of how like the market is kind of flooded. And yeah,
Do you want to share your resume? We'll give you a quick feedback, maybe.
yeah, how can I do that?
And
Just like,
just post it in either chat or you can share your screen. While you're doing this, just give you like a follow-up question. Do you have specific role? Like what do you want to gonna be like? Do you want to be a software engineer? Do you want to be because even penetration testing, it's a completely different beast. Do you want to be a
yeah,
tester? Do you want to be like what the role you are trying to pursue?
basically just entry level software or QA tester because I'm interested in like test driven development right now.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of open to anything. And then the cybersecurity was just like a little flavor for something that I could do, but I don't know if that's really long term. So I'm basically looking for like the fundamentals for software engineering and not anything too specific or like specialized.
How did your internship at Expedia go?
It was not really an internship there. It was an industry mentorship through the college. So basically we had a like senior dev who like oversaw the state of like the project that we made for our senior capstone. So we got to hear like basically advice from industry at the college level for what we can make our project. So it's not really, I don't really know what to call it. It's not like an internship that I'm going there, but it's a mentorship that I have someone who's like a senior dev, like who I can get like direct access or advice to build something. And actually, Expedia only offered the project proposals that they themselves are working on. So it's like I got to see like to make like a full stack web app for like the guest and travel hospitality industry. That was really fun.
And are there any openings at Expedia? Because you have some.
I tried. Not really entry. The only ones I see are like senior dev, X many experience years.
Yeah, okay. Okay. I see. Yeah, you have a few projects here. Also, you were the president of,
The CS Club, yeah.
yeah, you talked with the dean about increasing club funding by 500%. What was the outcome?
It worked. We got a huge amount of funding increase.
Okay, dude, then don't say talked with the dean. Like to me, if I'm reading your resume,
Yeah,
again, Matthew, I'm talking to you like a friend. So,
yeah.
like, come on, man. Talked with the dean means nothing. Like, I actually don't like when people say participated in blah or attended a meeting of the. That means absolutely nothing to. I think that's fluff. Like, I think that's people who didn't do anything who just want to put something on their resume. You actually got something accomplished. So don't say, say like, proposed and accepted, my proposal was accepted by the dean, or the dean accepted my proposal and increased, funding by 500% for blah, right? Come on, like make it impactful because you did something here. Yeah. So, okay, so that's about your resume. There's probably some more things we can tweak about your resume. I think for entry level, it's pretty good. I would maybe highlight some different things and rephrase some things, but those are just tweaks. You got to think hiring managers, I forgot what the statistic was. It's something like 30 to 60 seconds is how long, a human looks at a resume. And now, there's tools and AI that goes through resumes. So you've got to have like the right phrases, but also kind of visually, you have to have the most impactful things highlighted so that you can get the right attention. So yeah, but overall, I think it's okay. You mentioned you've applied 200 times.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, man, that's not a lot. That's not that much. There's a lot of openings for software engineers, but a lot of competition. And every day you should be applying for a few, right? Keep looking for other places, look for small companies and big companies. Your network is probably going to be really helpful at your stage, right? And find a way to break in. So you've got a network connection at Expedia, use that wisely, right? Like find a few positions that you think you could qualify for that might be a good fit, even if they see senior on it. Find relevant experience that you have that apply to those positions, and maybe find out who the hiring manager is. Have like offered like a 15-minute chat with them, or ask if you can buy them coffee and find out more. Just say like, I'm a student. I'd like some more information about what it's like to work at Expedia. Do you have 15 minutes? Can I buy you coffee at your work, right? Like meet them at their place. Keep trying. Eventually it'll pay off, but keep trying other avenues to break in. If those are still not working, ask for a referral, right? Say, Expedia sounds like an amazing place to work. I hope something, I could see myself working there in the future. In the meantime, do you know of any openings that would be a good fit for me? Do you have any contacts who are hiring that, are looking for someone with my type of experience? You never know what will happen. So just present yourself very well, stay positive, and keep trying there.
I have a question meanwhile. Do you do any like projects you built already, or like do you participate in any projects recently? Like, because software engineer is pretty much easy to show off or to showcase your work.
Yeah, well, right now, I think I mentioned this actually at the top of my resume, but I am working with a mentor to do test-driven development. So we're basically making like a hangman game right now, which is pretty cool. So that's like a project that I'm learning with that framework. But even like outside of that, I would say this kind of like goes with like other things I can do in my resume. I think I could get like a cloud certification, like cloud practitioner or something with AWS, because I have like the cloud practitioner, like I think fundamentals, and then cloud developer, like through their like academy, like I can go through and look at their modules,
Wait,
and
wait,
it's
wait.
easy to get those
Even
certifications.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Even before that, I think if you are doing the development and
Mhm.
do you store this in GitHub, GitLab, where
Yeah, GitHub.
GitHub, right? So this guy should your like this is your number one thing that you should show, because this is something that you can prove that you've done, and it's easy to prove, right? Just show your
Mhm.
GitHub profile here. This is should be like somewhere in the beginning, along with your contact information. And in the professional experience, you are contributing to this project, and blank, you should state your GitHub profile with your exact like work. This speaks much more than everything else on your resume,
Mm.
because you're going to be a software engineer, right? Certificates, yeah, great in the beginning, but the work that you've done or the work that you are contributing right now speaks much louder
I
than
think
anything else.
I also mentioned that because I would say it would help me to build more stuff by learning what I can do with the cloud. So I would say in terms of like front facing or like forward things, well, if I learn like how to like host a website on the cloud and it's something that I completely built by myself, then I can show that as a project that's more like
Yeah,
value.
100%,
Yeah,
100%.
Matthew, a few more things for you. You
Yeah.
mentioned interviews. So, your first step is to get the attention from recruiters, hiring managers. Second step is to pass the interview. So be prepared for the interviews, right? Know what you're going to be asked for that first screen, and then for like the full like on-site interviews, know exactly what your answers are. You should probably be leak coding and be preparing for those type of interviews. Yeah, be ready, because the time will come. It'll probably get scheduled in a week or two. So be ready. Happy to help more with that. They're like entry-level positions, like the interview questions they're pretty typical, right? It's a boilerplate, and you just need to be prepared, and be prepared for like the follow-up questions, and know how to answer them well. And I mean, you got a good GPA, you've done a lot of stuff. I don't think it's going to be hard unless you have some like visual things or something that you need to overcome, but you shouldn't have a problem acing those interviews. Another thing is, yeah, it's great that you're working on projects and learning right now.
Yeah.
A great advice that I got a long time ago was, don't prepare for your next role, prepare for your 2 roles from now, right? Like your second job. So what is it that you want to do after this first job? Be ready for that. You might not have that answer, but if you are passionate about security, if you're passionate about AI, or even if you're not, maybe pick something that you think is interesting, that you think you could do well in. And now is a great time to study and ramp up on that, right? If you want to be the security expert, yeah, obviously AI, machine learning is, the hot topic right now. That's not going to go away anytime soon. So you start learning and ramping up and positioning yourself as, I'm going to be, the next AI senior engineer. Get ready for it, right? If you have the time right now and the ambition and skill set, you can learn anything. So software industry, you're in a good industry now. It's not going to go away. It's a tough market right now, but be ready for the next wave that's already about to crash on the shore.
Okay.
Just again, kind of presentation wise, I'm a Northwest guy, so I love the sun and the trees in the background, especially because it's so rare to see. But light should never come from behind.
I know.
From the camera. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But your sound is good. I can hear you very well. And yeah, just a few presentation things. But I think we're running out of time. Matthew, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn if you ever need more help, if you want like a session to go through something, or ways to kind of tweak your resume. I have a few things I think you could do to improve it a little.
Yeah.
But
Very much
otherwise,
so.
keep trying, man. We've all been in your shoes before, and you'll land something great soon.
Can you send that in the chat for me, and then I can add it to LinkedIn, because I didn't see it from before.
Sure.
I'll repost it here right now. So totally, guys, I just posted the George LinkedIn profile. Connect with him. George also do some consulting for those who are. George is helping with the interviews, basically. Feel free to reach out to George. And by the way, I should have say when Karen was talking, we had a great presentation about the STAR method from Eugene. It was like two videos before. Like check on our YouTube channel as well. But yeah, so guys, thank you very much for all participating. George, as usual, great, awesome. I don't know what to say. Thank you very much for volunteering and helping, providing extremely valuable feedback. I've learned a lot myself as well. Like, it's always, it's always way to go to for mastering these interviewing skills. Interviewing skills is like a muscle, right? If you're not developing it, especially once you get a job, you stop doing the interviews, and kind of this skill of this muscle get weak, or you have to gain this again. Like it's like that. Yeah, but guys, please join our next. Yeah, go ahead, George.
Olena had a question. I'm happy to stay on for a little longer if she wanted to chat. But if other people
Yeah. Let me.
I really enjoyed this.
I have time as well. Let's stop the streaming also.